Foreign nurses, Canada wants you. If you're a foreign educated nurse wanting to relocate to Canada to work as a registered nurse, no matter where you're from in the world, there is a way for you to come to Canada to work. But if you happen to be from one of the 7 lucky countries I'm going to mention in this video, there are expedited and way faster processing times to not only get you registered in Canada, but also to get you here working in Canada as a registered nurse within only a few weeks. What is up, you guys? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are new, my name is Kira Selena, and on this channel we talk about nursing, beauty, lifestyle, and content creation. I've been a nurse here in Canada for the past 5 years, specifically an LPN, and I'm soon going back to get my bachelor's in science of nursing. During my time as a nurse, I've had the opportunity to work with many foreign educated nurses from all over the world and who have been able to relocate here to Canada to work as registered nurses. Let's not ramble too much. Let's just go ahead and get straight into the video. Let's go ahead and start off with the traditional process, which is not much different from the expedited process. This is just the process that you're gonna have to go through if you do not fall into one of these 7 countries that I'm gonna be talking about next. So if you're not from one of those countries, this is the process that you're gonna have to go through. And the first step for the traditional process will be to go through the NNAS, which is the National Nursing Assessment Service. This is basically a company that is responsible for evaluating all of your credentials, your education, and determining whether or not your education is seen as equivalent to that of a registered nurse here in Canada. Now, it's important to note that the NNAS is actually US based, which means that they are the company that handles all of the US and Canadian applications. And for this reason, processing times take extremely long. And there are nurses who have applied through the NNAS to get their credentials evaluated, and it has taken them years. So if you're gonna start this application process, do not expect it to take anything under a year. It is possible that it may go way quicker depending on what country you're coming from, but you can expect your processing time for this to take over a year. Now, once your credentials are evaluated, there are 2 possibilities. Either your education will be seen as equivalent, which means that you are going to be able to move on to the next step, which we'll talk about in a second, or not. Now, in my personal experience, I have seen some nurses who were registered nurses in their home country and were able to come here and work as licensed practical nurses or registered practical nurses. And if you want to know the difference between an LPN and an RN here in Canada or the United States, I will link a video up here and in the description where you're going to be able to get a full breakdown of exactly what the difference is for both of them in terms of education as well as salary, so you can go check that out. Another thing that I've also seen is nurses that were able to come here and they were able to do a few months of extra study in order to get an LPN or RPN title. So you'll either have to come here and work as an LPN and then work towards getting your RN, or you'll have to come here and do some extra courses in order to be able to write your board exam as an LPN or an RPN. Step is going to be getting registered with the Board of Nursing. So you're gonna have to pick what province you want to work in. Now, if I'm giving you my honest opinion as a nurse here in Canada, I've been licensed in Quebec, in Ontario, in British Columbia, as well as Nova Scotia. So I do know a little bit about nursing and the different salaries here. If I were to recommend a place to work for you, I would say to definitely look into Ontario firstly. I would also look into British Columbia and Alberta. So you're gonna pick the province that you're gonna work in, and you're going to look for their Board of Nursing. All you have to do is type in the province and Board of Nursing, and you will easily find the Board of Nursing for that place. You're then gonna go through the entire application process. It is going to ask you if you are a foreign trained nurse or if you are a nurse that is currently working in another jurisdiction in Canada. Of course, you're gonna put that you are a foreign nurse. Somewhere in your application, you will have to put your NNAS assessment showing that the NNAS has evaluated your credits and that they have given you your equivalency to work in Canada. Once you're done that application process, which you will have to pay for, depending on the province you're applying for, there will be different prices, but you can expect anything between $300 and maybe $700. You'll wait a few business days and then you will then get registered. Now let's move on to step number 3. The next thing you could do is go on places like LinkedIn, Indeed, Workopolis, Glassdoor. There are a bunch of different websites where you can start applying for jobs. I would put in nursing jobs with sponsorship in Canada. This is going to recommend a bunch of different companies within Canada or within the province that you want to work at who are willing and open to sponsor foreign nurses. Another thing that you could do is also apply for nursing agencies, because there are some nursing agencies out there that will be willing to help get you a job or get you in, which can make it a lot easier because they're going to do a lot more of that legwork for you instead of you having to go do it for yourself. So you can type in nursing agencies Canada or nursing agencies Ontario, depending on the province that you want to work at. And you could go ahead and call them up or go on their websites and see if they help with nursing sponsorship. Now, keep in mind, there is a massive shortage of nurses everywhere. So there is probably a much faster immigration process for nurses to get into Canada, especially if you could show that you have a job offer already. So it'll be up to you to call maybe an immigration law office and see if they can give you any guidance on that. A lot of them will do free 30-minute consultations. So definitely take advantage of calling up a few immigration law offices in the province that you want to relocate to and ask them about any expedited processes or quicker processes for registered nurses. 9 times out of 10, there probably will be one, since there is such a major shortage of nurses, and especially if you are already licensed with a board of nursing. I'm not an immigration lawyer and I do not want to give you any legal advice, so always get the information straight from the source, or you can even call the board of nursing up and ask them if they can direct you in the right direction. Now let's get into the expedited process, which I know is what you came here for. If you happen to be a nurse from the Philippines, India, Nigeria, the US, the UK, New Zealand, or Australia, there is a quicker way for you to get into Canada and start working as a registered nurse. Now, it's important to note that this does not apply to all of Canada. This is going to apply to a few provinces. For a lot of other provinces, you're still going to have to go through the traditional route, regardless of whether or not you are from one of these countries. But I'm going to give you a little shortcut, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Now, firstly, I want to talk about Nova Scotia, because Nova Scotia seems to really be wanting to help out nurses from these 7 countries. What makes this process a lot faster is that you do not have to go through the National Nurses Assessment Service. If you are licensed in one of these 7 countries that I just mentioned, all you're gonna have to show is proof that you are registered as a registered nurse in your home country. So you're firstly gonna have to go to the board of nursing in your country, and you're gonna have to get them to send proof of your registration directly to the Nova Scotia Board of Nursing. Keep in mind, this has to be done directly from the Board of Nursing. They do not want you to send a screenshot or a picture or proof of licensure. They want the Board of Nursing of your home country to send it directly to them. So you're gonna go on the Nova Scotia Board of Nursing website, you're gonna open an application and start your application, and the second step to your application will be that. The next step will then be to pay for your application fee, and you're also going to have to submit a criminal record check. So you're gonna have to go to your local police department and get them to file a full criminal record check and send it to the Board of Nursing. Now, my Nigerian nurses, sorry you, but he be like say, get small problem for your matter. They said that the Nova Scotia Nursing and Midwifery Council recently made policy changes and have stopped issuing VORs. This is verification of registration forms. So usually the NMCM or the Nova Scotia Board of Nursing will issue you a verification of registration form, which you will then send to your Board of Nursing, and then they will fill it out and send it back to Nova Scotia. However, there is a small delay for Nigerian nurses because they said that currently they are no longer issuing verification of registration forms. So they said that you may still apply, but there may be some smaller delays in your own application process because they do not know when they are going to resume issuing VORs. Do not let this discourage you. Go ahead, still do the process, still apply. The Nova Scotia Board of Nursing is very, very responsive. So I'm sure that there's a way that they are going to work through this. And there's probably some other type of document that they're going to send to you, or that they're going to request from the Nigeria Board of Nursing. I don't know what it's called in Nigeria, but I just wanted to let you know that there is a small delay. Why is it always Nigeria that has a delay? I just don't understand. They need nurses, so they will find a way for you. Now, I also want you guys to know that British Columbia, or the BCCNM, is also providing a little bit more help for nurses from these countries to get registered in British Columbia. The process is a little bit closer to the traditional process compared to Nova Scotia, where you can just show that you are registered in your home country.
So I just wanted to come in here and intersect, because after reading a bit further, I realized that I was reading an old document. As of right now, the BCCNM does not require you to do an NNAS report, so that is great news for my nurses out there.
Once again, I will leave all these links down below, so do your own due diligence. Now, looking on the BCCNM website, it does say that the BCCNM accepts nursing education and practice in Australia, New Zealand, the United Kingdom, and the United States as largely comparable to registered nursing practice in Canada. So if you are educated in one of these countries, you may be able to register much more quickly. Again, link is down below. All you have to do is click on learn more, and it'll go over the process for you. Now, I know there's also a lot of questions around the IELTS and whether or not you're gonna have to do the IELTS exam. So you do not necessarily have to do the IELTS exam if you can prove that you went to an English primary, secondary, college, or university. If you're able to get a written letter from your current workplace proving that you are working in a predominantly English setting, or if you have completed the IELTS or CELBAN exam, which are both English language proficiency exams proving your proficiency in English. Now, there's a big question about the Nclex. Will you have to write the Nclex? The answer to that question is yes, you will have to write the Nclex. And for those of you who don't know what that is the board exam or the licensing exam for registered nurses in Canada as well as the USA. So the good news is, if you're a registered nurse here in Canada and you've written the Nclex and you want to go over to the USA to work, you will not have to write the Nclex again, because the Nclex is the same in Canada and the US. So that's great news for you. Another thing is, let's say you want to work in Ontario, but there isn't an expedited process for nurses from your countries in Ontario. If you are licensed in Nova Scotia or in any other province of Canada, you won't have to write the board exam or anything like that. You will just have to show proof that you are licensed in Nova Scotia, and then you'll just have to pay the application and you'll be able to go work in Ontario. So even if Nova Scotia is not where you want to live, if you get licensed in Nova Scotia, it will then make it much easier for you to work anywhere else in Canada. So still go through Nova Scotia. The facility that will sponsor you or that you're gonna work at will probably require for you to work there for a certain amount of time. After that time is complete, or even if you want to do PRN jobs and fly over to Ontario once in a while to pick up some extra shifts or make some extra money, if they have better options there or anywhere else in Canada, you'll just have to pay the application fee and get licensed. It is not complicated once you are licensed in any jurisdiction of Canada. So I really hope this video was helpful to all of my foreign nurses out there wanting to come here to work in Canada. If you have any questions, or if you want me to do one on CNAs or for any other professions, leave a comment down below. Leave any questions down below and I'll be happy to either answer that for you, get the information for you, or make a video for you. And again, if you don't know the difference between an LPN and an RN, or if you just want to see more nursing content, check out these two videos here. They may be really helpful to you. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.